Unholy Gania, Batman. This is Michael Lilborn Williams coming to you once again here from our wonderful studio in Clarksville, Tennessee. Thank you for joining me here for this Tuesday night teaching. We are going to continue and just progress in this understanding of Gania. And yeah, I didn't misquote it. I said unholy Gania, Batman. Robin always said holy whatever. But the generation that is spoken of in the New Testament, it's never spoken of as a holy generation. This generation that is spoken of in the New Testament, once again, we are wanting to focus in on what this definition of this word called Gania is, which is the word for generation. And we've gone through a lot of terms, and you've found out the importance of knowing what Greek words are and how they get applied into the English, because it can change everything. I want you to just think just a moment once again about our understanding of the end of the world, that all of that completely changed with the understanding of the other Greek words that are translated as the word world, but they are all three completely different from each other. In fact, I think there's four of them. Goodness gracious, the term hell. We have Hades, and we have also Gehenna, the other word that I was trying to say the last time. And these terms do not mean what modern day Christianity teaches hell to be by lacing it together with other stories and implied things like out of Revelation. So we get a very distorted view of what the end of the world even means. And the blockbuster chapter on that is Matthew 24, and it uses three of the terms in Matthew 24 alone. It's really quite amazing. So you can't possibly say you know what Matthew 24 is teaching on as the end of the world when you don't know the three different Greek words and how they are applied. In Matthew 24, Jesus never said that the cosmos was coming to an end. He said this age, and he was very specific, and the question was very specific as to the age of the temple. He said it was all coming to an end. That was what the disciples' question was about. Jesus was not mistaken about their question, and the disciples were not mistaken either about what the answer was referring to. And it was a shocking answer to them indeed, because this was the center of all of Judaism, Jewish life, socially, religiously, spiritually, on every level. Temple life was life. And here Jesus said that this age concerning the temple was coming to an end. Now, the term generations has been used and moved around a whole lot. It's been used as the word aeon, and it's been used as different, to identify different groups of people. Like a Jewish age, and they try to imply that this Gania is talking about a group of people that exist during any given period of time, but that just is not true. Now, I've been going back through all of these, and we're going to adjust one thing that I was saying. I've looked at an awful lot of material, and people a lot smarter than me have gone through this, and there seems to be some debate about it being somewhere between 35 and 40 years. You can go with 40 years. It's not going to change things very much one way or the other. But it is important to know that it is a generation of people that live at a certain time. And it's the whole group of people. Everyone, that generation includes everyone. So it was an unholy generation. Jesus never had anything good to say about that generation. And he said that generation was going to face a lot, and he compared it to a lot. But when we look at this term, Gania, we're going to find out some more about that today. As Daniel pointed out to me after I did the last session, it's really amazing that here in Matthew, that it starts out with the word generations is mentioned in Matthew. And I quoted that to you, but I didn't realize that right there, when it goes from David to the carrying away as 14 generations, and from the carrying away to Christ, that in itself has placed us within a 1,000-year time frame of the 1,000-year reign of Christ right here at this beginning. So what we're talking about is the very last generation that was alive during the reign of Christ, during the 1,000-year reign of Christ. And you say, well, how did that happen? Well, we have the church existing before the cross, and we were able to ferret that out and let that go back and be where it was supposed to be. So there's a lot of the parameters that we're just accepting them as they are stating to us, rather than what we have been spoon-fed and handed down over so many generations and hundreds of years, actually. So when we deal with this, and as Daniel pointed out, now we don't know when they start this in counting these generations. I don't know if it's from the birth of David, or when David became king, or when David died. David lived to be 70 years old, and of course Jesus lived to be 30 years old. I think that's an interesting little combination of numbers there. We're not into numerology, but the fact of it is the Hebrew language is numerical. And many things that you find in the Hebrew is always going to have some numerical arrangement to it. The Greek and the New Testament and all of these bonkers books that are out about the numerical values of the New Testament, thanks for playing. It's just not there. But you know that once you start doing numbers and you start presuming this, that, and the other, you can cut and paste anything together and make it say anything that you want. There's nothing, absolutely nothing spiritually inspired in the New Testament. These are accounts given by people, and Daniel and I will go through some of them on this Friday show. And we bring out where that the stories are told different in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So you don't have the precision. I think that's the best way to say it. You don't have the precision in the New Testament that you do in the Hebrew Scriptures, and the precision of language even. The Hebrew language is one of a picture language, but also is numerically valued. And it really becomes quite intricate and detailed. It's not extremely complicated, but you do have to know what you're dealing with. We have to turn to people who do know what they're talking about, because we don't know what we're talking about when it comes to the Hebrew language. But there's an awful lot of help out there to turn to for these things. So you come into the book of Matthew. We went into the last part of Ephesians and showed how that generation was a very specific generation. And you're going to see why in this show. I think we'll get to it. I've already eaten up 9 minutes of time here. You'll see, and if it's not in this one, we'll get it the next one. We're not in a big hurry here. We want to give you about 15 minutes to spend on this on Tuesday night, so that you can relax and have a drink or a cup of coffee or something, and sit with somebody and listen to this and absorb it, and just we'll continue building on it. So we come into the book of Matthew, and this term's generations, and it's very specific that the term generation can be numbered. They're so specific they can be numbered. Whether we know what they are specifically They are numbered very specifically indeed as 14 generations. From Abraham to David, and to David to carrying away, and then 14 more generations. And like I said, we don't know when it's talking about from David to Christ. Is it talking about when David came into his kingdom, or is it talking about when Christ entered the kingdom of God at his death, burial, and resurrection? There's just some things here we don't know yet. We think we will, but we don't know yet because we've just not had time to investigate that much. Yes, we are a research ministry, and we will continue to research. So the reason that we're going into this is to help us understand that this term Genia is talking about a generation. And if it wants to tell you which generation it's talking about, it's going to have to tell you where that generation lived. Just like in Matthew 1:17, there's 14 generations between Abraham and David, and then there's 14 generations. So you see, you could go in and divide up these generations and see what happened. When I was talking to Daniel, I got excited about that when he pointed it out to me. It's like one of the points of research we want to do is about the 1,000-year reign of Christ. It is virtually an uninvestigated period of time because all of Christianity puts it off into the future. We now know beyond the shadow of a doubt that the 1,000-year reign of Christ began with David. Jesus was also called David in the manifestation of his kingdom also. He was just the extension of David. So therein we have the 1,000-year reign of Christ, which said that he would reign until the last enemy was defeated, which was death. Now, don't tell me that Jesus did not defeat death on the cross. It defies everything that even Christianity teaches. So, of course, Christianity, because they have this term mixed up, they don't know which death that Jesus defeated. That's a shame, because they have another resurrection coming down the road, and therefore, again, this term Genia becomes very important as to exactly when these things were to and did happen. The 1,000-year reign of Christ. Now we're going to be able to go into all of these two sets of 14 generations and see what was going on during the 1,000-year reign of Christ. There's another 10-year project on our hands. If you want to help us, go right ahead. So we're going to continue on from that. We went into Matthew chapter 11 and verse 16, but I want to read that just a little bit more. We only read the one, and then I realized that we need to read the story, because the story does give us a very clear picture of the term Genia, that it is talking about a very specific period of time, or a group of that lived somewhere in a period of 35 to 40 years. I think it's closer to 40. So verse 16 in Matthew chapter 11 says, "But whereunto shall I liken this generation?" This generation. You're going to see later on why this generation, and the fact that we have to settle on what is this generation, because, you know, all of end time doctrine is based on moving this term generation around to anywhere you want to. Thanks for playing. You can't do that. This term generation, it'll tell you exactly which one it's talking about, just like 14 generations from the carrying away to Christ. It tells you exactly there was 14 of them. And we can go through and find every one of them. So Jesus is at the end of this 1,000-year reign. Think about this. Jesus is at the end of his 1,000-year reign, And he's coming to this point to where that death is about to be defeated itself. Now, at the end of his 14-year reign comes the last generation. The last generation what? The last generation of the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Now, we may start at the tail end and eat our way backwards, but we'll start any place we can. Give us a hand to gnaw on or anything. We don't care. But here, I think that this is going to become so relevant, way more relevant than I'm able to express to you because I just don't know yet. But we are investigating this together. I'm already at 15 minutes, but we're going to go through this story. And he says, whereunto shall I liken this generation? It is likened to the children sitting in the market and calling unto their fellows and saying, we have piped unto you, and ye have not danced. We have mourned unto you, and you have not lamented. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he hath the devil. So which generation is he talking about? You see, you can't take this term and move it around, except the generation that he's talking about. Within this generation, John the Baptist had his ministry. So John the Baptist came and neither eating nor drinking, and they say he hath the devil. The Son of Man cometh, eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a man gluttonous and a winebibber, a friend of publicans and sinners. But wisdom is justified by her children. Man, I tell you what, this is so chock full. Wisdom, the wisdom of the mystery of this 1,000-year reign. I'm telling you, I can't even believe I'm getting to talk about this. We are now talking to you about the last generation of the reign, the 1,000-year reign of Christ. I don't know about the other generations, the 28 generations from David down to Jesus. But if we bite off one here, we can keep going back and see how these generations and how they explain to us the 1,000-year. I'm so excited, I don't know what to do myself. So let me finish this so that you can get back to your drink and your cup of coffee and your friends. He says, but wisdom is justified by her children. Then began he to upbraid the cities wherein most of his mighty works were done, because they repented not. So which generation are we talking about? He is talking about the generation where he did his mighty works. And then goes on and says a lot more about this and starts saying, woe unto Carzona, woe unto Bethsaida, for if the mighty works which had been done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon generations before, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon at the day of judgment than for you. Oh, wow. And thou, Capernaum, which art exalted above the heavens, shall be brought down to Hades. That's the word grave. It's translated as the word hell. This is one of the, again, another one of those words that we just play word games with, and we just don't have the liberty to do that. For if the mighty works which had been done in thee, this generation, had been done in that generation of Sodom, it would have remained unto this day. But I say unto you that it has been more tolerable for the land of Sodom in the day of judgment than for thee. And then comes a little bit different part of this. So Jesus was letting them know, man, all hell's about to break loose. because death itself was about to be destroyed. And when death itself was destroyed, it destroyed everything that was attached to it. And the awesome thing about it is that the judgment that ended the 1,000-year reign of Christ, the judgment that ended the 1,000-year reign of Christ took place, and these people were set free. This is where all of the powerful analogies about the kinsman redeemer and all of those things began to kick in. And what Jesus said to them actually didn't happen, because he was the final judgment. And he finished the 1,000-year reign and freed everyone, even from the penalty of sin and death. It's good stuff. Love you guys.